again, everybody, and return with me now to those thrilling days of this past week or so for another exciting episode of the Jim Cornette Experience. I am Jim Cornette, and we're going to wing this one today, folks. Today, a once semi-great wrestling promotion has just given up trying. It's holiday shopping season at JimCornette.com, and things are flying off the shelves. Could be the tornado we had last week, and we will talk about week 4 in the Wednesday Night Wars. The gap, I'm afraid, is widening. And to join me in this, he's Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you, the proprietor of the French Toast Chateau, and a Wednesday Night War commandant, your friend and mine.
What?
The great Brian Lass.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. A little tired. This is the first Thursday that I have a little bit of a Wednesday Night War hangover from watching both. Not from anything particularly bothering me, even though we'll talk about things that did, but just from the idea of watching the 4 hours the night before.
And also, I'm going to make you, I loved Hogan's Heroes when I was a kid. I was 11, 12 years old before I realized that World War II was not a barrel of laughs. But I'm going to make you my Colonel Klink. I'm going to make you Commandant of Stalag Olivier when I send many of these play wrestlers to a gulag somewhere. We can try to contain the pathogen so that we can get a break from this somehow. Anyway.
When Hulk Hogan first became a thing, did many fans sit in the crowd and actually do like, Hogan? Did fans ever do that to Hulk Hogan?
Now, do that again. Say that again.
My voice cracked. Hogan! I can't do it. My voice is all shut.
I thought you were asking if they were yodeling Hulk Hogan. Well, they used to chant, when I was a kid, once again, back when people still saw in black and white. No, when I first started going to the matches, the people had chants for the baby faces. And it was generally something that everybody could pick up on real easy. And it was like, go, Jerry, go. Go, Jerry, go. If Jerry Jarrett was getting the shit kicked out of him, go, Jerry, go. Or if Jackie, go, Jackie, go. And the babyface would fire up. Nobody ever chanted the promotion's name because in Louisville they would have been chanting wrestling, because it was fucking wrestling.
When was the first time you saw a chant that incorporated a clap in the middle of it? Let's go, corny. Like that shit. When was the first time you saw one of those at wrestling? Oh,
God, that was the 90s, wasn't it? Probably. I don't think anybody did that before then. Because there was not a lot of chanting. There was just individual profanity and or shrill group shrieks of delight or fucking venom from the people. But they would chant for the babyface by name. Go Dusty, go. Go Telephone, go. Let's see who that is. Oh, for fuck's sake. That's a person who I will remain nameless. Anyway, but there was, for God's sake, anyway, this chanting. Where were we going with this? They chanted for the babyface by their names because they wanted them to submerge past the heel. They didn't chant for the promotion or just chant things for them to do. In Chicago, we want blood. We want blood. That goes back to the 60s and Bruiser and Crusher. And they'd give it to them. But it's just ridiculous now. It's like a goddamn sing-along. Sing along with Mitch Miller for those 70-year-olds in the audience.
How far outside of the Bruiser's territory at all did We Want Blood get out? Like in the 70s. Did that chant exist anywhere else?
Well, yeah, actually, yes, especially if it's a fucking hot Southern program. I'm sure many times Mario Galento or in Georgia or Ron Wright and Whitey Caldwell in East Tennessee prompted the people to chant, "We want blood." That, I mean, I think they've been doing that since the Roman days. Didn't I see that in a fucking Gladiator movie? Have you ever seen a Gladiator movie, Brian?
I've seen Airplane.
Well, that's close enough. Have you ever been in a men's prison? More than once? But anyway, no, that's why I'm so slappy. Here, we're recording later in the day than usual because you had that meeting with your parole officer. I mean, you had the scheduled appointment and you had to delay recording here. So now I've had time. I get up early in the morning. I'm an old man. I've got to piss and go to work.
Me too. That's why I'm so tired.
Well, no, you're tired because you stayed up and watched. I watched one last night and one today. I couldn't take two in a row. But we'll talk about that. I don't want to spoil anything because we have not conferred notes. We have not had any
we haven't.
Verbal intercourse between you and me so far today.
People say that you and I, we both have like the same thoughts, that I just agree with you on all this. They don't realize how much you and I disagree on all this shit. But maybe they'll find out today.
Well, sometimes there is. But anyway, you know what it is? I'll tell you what, maybe that's why I'm feeling so chipper. Because it's holiday sales season at JimCornette.com. Let's just lead right off with that. The big news that everybody's been waiting to hear. Full-fledged now. Everything's up so far. Now, I will say that we are still working with Korea on getting softcover editions of Behind the Curtain. As everybody knows, if they've still got them in any retailers, or if Amazon still has any, the print run, the first print run was run through, and they have no more at IDW. So we're working on the second printing as quickly as possible, and you will be able to get them autographed at JimCornette.com as soon as I get them in my greasy little hands, which is probably going to be somewhere around mid-November. So stay tuned. And we're still working with China on the action figures, folks. This could be a photo finish going down the chimney. As a matter of fact, I say this every year, and maybe one of these days you'll listen. No, I say this every year. Please, folks, for the good of everybody, for both of us, I don't want to be coming down you people's chimneys on Christmas Eve. So plan early, especially now that Cornette's Collectibles has somewhat expanded. Oh, my God, the torture over the last year. And I am quite covered up as it is. Let's get these orders in early. I'm going to work with you. I'm not on the road. I'm right here working in the DVD mines, and we'll be filling your orders for Christmas. But get your tickets early, as they say. The Houston's Wrestling Spectacular DVD has been insane over the last week now, and I'm in the process of checking into restocking on that also, because we got a bunch. But I would say about 30% of what we stocked is gone in a week. So to provide an uninterrupted supply, I just like they do from Bolivia and Colombia, I want to provide an uninterrupted supply here. We're checking on restocking already, but the Houston's Wrestling Spectacular DVD, 4 hours, including the best example of Johnny Valentine and Wild Bull Curry in their primes from the late 60s in Houston, which we talked about last week, is incredible. $15 for 4 hours, autographed at JimCornette.com, including also, just if I might throw out a few names, Jack Briscoe, Jimmy Snuka, Nick Bockwinkel, Dusty Rhodes, Bruiser Brody, Ivan Koloff. Need I go further? And also, Brian, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but the Fuck JC shirts for the kids, by the way, have been a little bit more popular than I was thinking they might be. They're not flying now by any means, but they're selling because it is a limited edition. After this, we probably won't do them, but we just wanted to get it out there so that the money could go to a good cause, and $5 off every shirt goes to the WHAS Crusade for Children. But there have been a few more people that wanted to express that sentiment than I thought there would be. But once again, they're wanting the collector's edition. That's what it is, because it's a limited edition, and that's what they're wanting. I'm sure of that. Right, Brian?
Yeah, man. Plus, everyone wants to support the kids.
Yeah, man.
Everyone wants to support the children.
Well, there you go. You could have said something other than, yeah, man, before you said everybody wants to support the kids.
I could have, yes.
God damn it, you brutal fuck. Anyway, all of our other fucking fine shirts with proper sentiments attached, such as the ever popular Cornette face, the I'm a Jim Cornette guy, the thank you, fuck you, bye, which is exceptionally good for holiday family Christmas parties and things of that nature. And also the Outlaw Mud Show shirts, because I know where we'll talk about later on where you can wear those. They're available. And we got to draw a line somewhere. I'm getting a lot of shirts, and we have to keep multiple copies of each size, and we feature small through 5X because we do have diminutive as well as portly fans in the cult, so we keep small through 5X. So the Hate is a Hell of a Motivator shirts, which also $5 from each shirt goes to the Crusade for Children. Those are going to be limited because when the stock is gone on these, we're not renewing at least through the holidays. They'll be gone. So if you've been sitting on the fence about the Hate is a Hell of a Motivator shirts over the next couple of weeks, if that, will spell the tail, because as we sell out of a size, we'll take that down. So don't get shut out, because just because we have a lot doesn't mean we have a lot in your size.
Have you thought about doing any shirts that aren't black? I've heard a couple of listeners ask about that, actually.
They never sell, and everybody complains. And then also, everybody looks even more portly if they're not wearing black.
Okay.
But anyway, JimCornette.com. And also, folks, you continue to be astounded to learn that you can get the Cult of Cornette official membership certificate, 8 by 10 inches, suitable for framing on heavy cardstock, full color. A fine portrait of me with our, of course, Pledge of Allegiance, which everybody knows it, but I'll say it here just in case for the new listeners and the sick and shut-ins in the audience. This is needed more than ever now, folks. We pledge allegiance to the leader of the mighty Cult of Cornette and to the pro wrestling for which he stands. No blow-up dolls, dick spots, or dance routines. With blood sellouts and shoot angles for all. And then I sign it, fill in your name to make it official. You cannot be traced by the government, even if you have one of these official documents. $10 at JimCornette.com. And we need those. You need to start wearing the Outlaw Mud Show t-shirts and taking the Cult of Cornette membership certificates to some of the Wednesday night programs we'll be talking about. Anyway, so otherwise than that, JimCornette.com. It's holiday season. Hit me with your best shot. I've seen fucking chaos now after the behind the curtain sale. We can handle this. Because I mentioned I'm not on the road, Brian. I'm home. I have not put 7 miles on the truck in the last week because the post office is only 1.5 miles away. And I've been, let's see, 1.5, 3, 4. All right. I put 8 miles on the truck because I went 3 times. But I'm off the road. My only live appearances, ladies and gentlemen, until March of 2020, if we make it that far, is the NWA pay-per-view and television tapings December 14, 15, and 16 at the GPB Studios in downtown Atlanta. The pay-per-view is already sold out for live tickets. I think some of the pay-per-views still remain on pay-per-view, right?
They are still available, correct?
They're still available, yes, but the live tickets have sold out, and the TV tapings soon will be. Obviously, it's a studio atmosphere, and it's intimate. They've gotten a few more people in for the pay-per-view. There's going to be some VIP meet and greets. I'm going to be doing those on one of those days. I'm not sure which, but you can follow the NWA on Twitter at NWA, and I promise you, Dave Lagana will keep you updated. This man, David Lagana, when we were in Ring of Honor together, I called him Gimmick Man because he could pull his phone out of his fucking pocket and get you on, connect you with NASA in 30 seconds. I walked up to him one time and asked him a question at one of our shows, and he was actually, this was before this was a common thing that you could just walk up and see somebody doing. This was 10 years ago. He was broadcasting on the internet live from his fucking phone. The matches or a clip of the match or whatever. He's been ahead of all this stuff. Anyway, he'll keep you informed. If you follow them on at NWA, you'll know everything, or go to nationalwrestlingalliance.com. But You can watch NWA Power and see more of my greatness. Apparently, I didn't think, Brian, you know me. I have never said I'm the absolute greatest announcer in the world. Have I ever said that to you?
No, you've always tried to walk that back. You haven't even said you're the greatest manager in the world.
Well, now that Heenan's gone, I can say that, actually.
Okay.
But I've never even placed myself in one of the top 3 announcers in wrestling. But everybody else is, so I guess now I have to also. No, but the feedback from has been more, and I'm not knocking any other promotions, but the feedback from my announcing, color commentary, what have you, on NWA Power, which a new show drops every Tuesday evening on YouTube, but you can watch it anytime you want, and almost 1 million people have between the first 3 shows. More people are freaking out about my announcing than I did pay-per-view. I did the Crockett Cup, MLW, I did this and that, and then all of a sudden it's just Twitter is blown up with it. It's because the show is different. Boy, after watching the opposition, or shouldn't say opposition, it's a completely different genre these days. After watching some other programs, the NWA Power show is still the only one that's different. For good or bad, it stands out. Whatever you think, you have to admit, it stands out. And it's so much more relaxing to watch. I don't get anxiety. But anyway, follow me there on YouTube also, and crow about my commentary.
It's also because not a lot of fans, I feel, have seen, because it's not like anything's in circulation, have seen you in OVW. Because if you saw you in OVW, you know exactly how good. I mean, you were like Bill Watts in Mid-South in OVW.
Well, yeah, and I'm not doing this anywhere near the way I did OVW, because, and I'm honest, walking a fine line here between backhandedly complimenting somebody on either side of the fence. Joe Gali is nothing like Dean Hill. When I did the OVW show, I knew I was way too hyper as the announcer, but I had to do the Bill Watts thing, and I had to put Dean in the my God, Boyd Pierce role, because Dean was the beloved fixture, but he had not had the broadcasting background or the wrestling background to call what I was trying to do. So I kept him in that beloved color position because he still lent the local flavor and everybody liked him and he was good at what he was doing there, but I was fucking a jackhammer to get all the points across and sell the shit. With Joe Gali, he's the lead guy and should be, because he's the future of the NWA. I have a feeling he will live longer than I will. I don't know. I just feel it in my bones. He's the future and he should be the lead guy. And I'm doing color, and it's more the old-fashioned laid-back studio show. I'm not obsessively Bill Watson it. It's more toward the Lance Russell end of the scale than it is come on, Kingston, would you just stop it? So it's different, but you adapt to the different surroundings and products if they're all within the spectrum of wrestling. Anyway. But it's just remarkable that in the same week that, like I said, the NWA first 3 shows have had almost 1 million, or depending on what time it is or what day that you're listening is, 1 million or more listens to habitual with my show. They actually do video on their television. 1 million views, downloads, whatever, on YouTube. And meanwhile, a once semi-great wrestling promotion, once Vince McMahon's only domestic competition with national television, pay-per-view, foreign tours, international television, talent roster, everybody from Kurt Angle to Hulk Hogan to Ric Flair. Now, at the time where they have not even been on real television in the previous 2 years or so, and they have lucked into access because their parent company bought it. Here is how far in the past week I have seen Impact Wrestling has fallen, young man, Brian. Did you see the footage? And I'm not glorifying in this, but it's just, what the fuck? At this point, just give up. Just give up. Did you see the footage of Josh Matthews' phone?
I did not, no.
Apparently, there's the Twitch. Now, Twitch is a way that Impact is on some type of broadcast, where they.
Yeah, it's a big platform. Twitch is a big platform. A lot of gamers use it.
I'm sure they do, but the point is, it apparently is not an HD high tech fucking operation, because they were broadcasting a show of theirs on Twitch from Josh Matthews' cell phone.
Oh.
Because the clip is from somebody put it up on Twitter. Josh Matthews comes up in front on camera and says, "Hey, I need my phone." And he says something like, we'll get another phone and get the stream back up, but I need my phone. And so they were actually broadcasting from the announcer's cell phone. But I was willing at that point to just say, holy shit, I've done some shoestring things in the past also. I'm sure people can find. I don't know I've ever actually broadcast a show on my phone. I couldn't do that anyway. But then it made the news, and I just had to comment on this. Like I said, can't you just roll over and just die? Can't you just throw your hands up and say, fuck it? Can't you just commit Harry Carey? Not the old baseball announcer, but the form of suicide that we used to hear about when we were kids in the movies. Can't you just what the fuck? They have actually admitted that they have fallen so far on the wrestling totem pole with all these new companies that have come along and sprouted and are prospering in some manner or another, when they've been at this for almost 20 years and have plummeted downwards from pretty much the last 15. They've signed Joey Ryan. They have had to come out and admit that they have dropped and plummeted and submerged so far past polite society in wrestling that they actually need the attention that a guy who does dick spots in dive bars will bring to their promotion, Brian.
You see, I also look at it the other way. He can't get a contract with anyone to do his dick shtick, and they're the only ones.
Yeah, that's obvious, but here's the thing. What did they give him a contract for? To work for Impact Wrestling? What, do they tape once a month? That often? Do they? Maybe a house show here and there, a co-promotion? The point is, it was announced he's still keeping all of his outlaw shows. He'll still be at a cheap bar near you, probably one that has floor rot behind the bar because of poor maintenance. He's still going to do his dick spot everywhere. He's just going to work for it, which means they want him on their television, because they figure, okay, we can't get canceled because the parent company owns the thing, so we're safe there. Nobody else can put him on television because they're too embarrassed and they don't want it or need it. But they can put him on television because they can't get kicked off because their parent company owns the program. So that will bring his fucking little penis followers. I don't know, what do they call them? The penisettes or the dickettes or the
little wads.
The little wads? Well, they'll bring all the little wads with them. That's how bad it is that they need. That's almost like we're going to go ahead and feature in our Broadway play the fucking guy who bites the heads off live chickens at the county fair in Dyersburg, Tennessee. That's about that fucking range. So I just want to say congratulations to Impact Wrestling. You're still alive, but apparently just barely, but you're that fucking desperate. Good Lord.
We talked about Impact, I don't remember, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. And within the last month, we've talked about him on the show. And we went through the lineup of their big show, and I wasn't quite aware of who was there and what was going on, and you weren't either. And I think this kind of sums it up. For the last several years, at least, the only time I hear anything about them or see anything pop up on social media, it's never like, 5 stars, check this out, or this is amazing. It's always like, look what they did now, look who they signed now, look what, look at how low.
Well, no, and I'm not. No, there's a couple of people there that I hope and pray will somehow find a life raft because they have talent and should be working for a legitimate operation. But when you've just given up and said, okay, we're just going to be a fucking clown show. We're going to be a Saturday Night Live sketch of wrestling. This is a fucking, not a precedent. What's the word? An example that you're setting for. This is the kind of people we're looking for to add to our roster. Else is going to want to? Maybe the next guy they can hire is the guy who pumps out my fucking septic tank. If they're willing to just take anybody, I'm sure there's some homeless bum sleeping under an overpass that needs a job. If their standards have been lowered that far, if they'll take Dick Guy, I guess they're just handing out free money. Anyway,
that's a popular thing in wrestling nowadays.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute too. We'll get to some of the free money that was handed out this week. And
I'll tell you what, Jim. Let's talk about that. Let's stay on the topic of free money or free things. And you do so much to help the cult of Cornette save money on various things. Whether it's headphones, I'm still waiting for my blue pair of Raycons. Whether it's the CBD,
they keep leaving you out. I keep setting all this stuff up for everybody else. And they leave you out.
No, they send me every other one but the blue one. But
now they're just fucking with you.
But they're all Dynamite. And again, I am a collector. But, we've talked about various products, of course, on the show. And, of course, the law office of Stephen P. New. But I have something specific for you, an opportunity that crossed my desk. And I said, you know what? This is good because this is something that it's not necessarily Jim helping the listeners. It's me helping Jim. How do you feel about that?
I'm all into that. I like being helped.
Jim, whether you're an athlete, a weekend warrior, someone looking to get back into the game of life, or a guy that just does gardening and packaging comic books and taking them to the post office, finding a program that pushes you to grow physical and mentally, yeah, that's what it says here, to grow physical and mentally, it should be physically, to grow physically and mentally might seem out of reach.
It might. I don't know. I've been looking everywhere for programs that could help me grow physical and mentally.
Most fitness apps focus on weightlifting workouts or six-pack abs. Let's be honest, you're never getting those.
I've had abs that look like I've been drinking six-packs even though I don't drink beer.
These wellness apps, they don't challenge you enough. But there's a solution. Inspired by the training techniques and lifestyle habits of big wave surfer Laird Hamilton and former pro athlete Gabrielle Reese, XPT is a performance lifestyle rooted in the most basic yet powerful human trait, the ability to adapt. Now, that's one of the abilities you are not known for, and you could certainly use some help with, don't you think?
I don't like change is bad. I don't like to adapt, but is this a physical program that you are talking about here where it can make me healthier in some fashion?
It will certainly make you healthier. You need to challenge yourself, Jim. You need to challenge yourself with XPT's comprehensive breathe, move, recover curriculum designed to stimulate growth in all aspects of human performance. Aren't those aspects of human performance you need help with, breathing and moving and recovering?
Well, I like breathing. I do it every chance I get. I thought I knew how to do it properly. I like moving. I don't necessarily do as much of it as I do breathing. And the recovering is probably the worst part these days. It takes me longer to recover from things.
But let's go back to what I said at the top here. I'm trying to find a way to elevate your quality of life, your quality of everyday life, and reduce the stress by using breathe-centric performance training and recovery to give you the power to break physical and mental boundaries in everything you do. Imagine Jim Cornette now, but with the ability to break physical and mental boundaries. I can't even imagine what kind of monster that would be.
So what is the name of this shit again? It's going to help me do all of this?
It's XPT Life, and the actual website is xptlife.com/JCE. It's built again on the fundamentals of breathe, move, recover. Their revolutionary approach empowers you to push human boundaries through physical and psychological stressors while encountering adaptation so that you thrive while encouraging adaptation. So you thrive, not just survive. Don't you think?
Well, wait a minute. What is you just said? Stress? It's stressful?
No, it's teaching you how to go past the psychological stressors.
Oh.
And adapt to all your surroundings, which should be easy for you. You're in your office.
Well, basically, I just have to breathe and I can do this?
Well, the real secret behind the power of XPT is it's breathing programming. Funny you ask, Jim.
It would have been funny in rehearsal.
It encompasses the best techniques from around the world to improve recovery, resilience, and performance in both mind and body. We all breathe to survive. But Jim, I ask you, have you ever breathed to thrive?
I can't honestly say that I've ever taken a breath and think that, well, that would make me thrive right there.
So what do you think? I mean, I've told you a lot about this. I've told you a lot about...
I just don't understand a goddamn thing you've said. How can I find out more about this?
Go to xptlife.com/JCE, and right there you can download the app for free. And what's better than that, Jim?
Well, at least you can't lose any money on this, folks, but this will make us healthier and happier and in better shape and better mentally, and we can breathe, because I am in favor of breathing as long as possible. A lot of people doing this, huh?
That's right. XPT is a lot of people. Hold on, let me go back to that paragraph. Hold on. A lot of people are doing this, including Aaron Rodgers and Kevin Durant. The U.S. military and Olympic athletes have experienced firsthand the impact of such radical training.
Well, that's a bunch of people.
That's a lot of people. Listen, Jim, this is the hard copy part I have to read. XPT is the leader in human performance training with pro athletes, the military, and Olympians using it. It's proven to work. It really does live up to the hype and will be one of the most talked about health trends in 2020. Don't you want to be up with the trends, Jim?
Well, I always like to be hip, like the young kids say. I get on my zoot suit, and I got my pocket watch, and I'm swinging to that jazz, man.
Well, it's hip to be square, too, with XPT. They're offering access to this revolutionary training app for free. Just go to xptlife.com/JCE to download the app and take advantage of this limited offer. That is xptlife.com/JCE and download the app for free today. Discover how the XPT app can be your key to living limitless.
Well, I don't like limits. Limits are very limiting. Well, I do like to breathe.
This will get you past the limits and the boundaries, psychologically, mentally, physically. Sounds like this will just cure everything that you're having an issue with.
Well, I would need a couple of hitmen for that. But anyway, what are you doing this week? Is that program out yet?
Oh, really? I'm going right to my plug from doing the other plug. Listen, this week, because I'm not tired enough, on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.
There's people digging fucking ditches. And you just did a plug. You do another plug. Well, you can't do two plugs together.
This week on the Super Studcast, the Tennessee Stud Ron Fuller welcomes the dreaded assassin to the program. Hear it today at patreon.com/studcast. Hear all about, starting out with Rocca. He doesn't really seem to be a big fan of Mario Galento. Not exactly sure what was going on there, but hear more about that and so much more today. The Super Studcast. I also want to make mention, John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight, then and now. The next episode is the very first appearance of someone who would become a regular with Pro Wrestling Spotlight, someone who had many big moments on the air with Pro Wrestling Spotlight, and that is Cactus Jack Mick Foley, or at this time, Cactus Jack Manson. He was home on Long Island after getting injured in Dallas. This is before he started with the NWA. Hear this today from September 1989 at pwspod.com, or wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast, John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Then and now, and of course, the 605.
Hey, wait, before you do it to me, I got to tell you a Cactus Jack story.
Please.
This was right after he came to WCW. It was the holiday time, I think November, December 1989. Not sure with Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever. But we had been off for the break, and that's right when he had just started on the road after doing the thing where he was the partner on the Job Guy team and blah, 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 and then dropping the elbow on his partner. So we came back from the holiday break, And Cactus, and I was on the booking committee at the time. He had called me. He'd been in a car wreck while he was home in New York and had fucked up his leg kind of, and he was going to have to miss like 2 shows before, after we came back from the break, but then he'd be there, whatever. I said, okay. So he misses the show or whatever, but it was just a couple of days. And then he comes back, and the first night he's in the locker room, Arn Anderson, who has seen him doing all of this, dropping the elbow and taking all the bumps, doing all the things he was doing. He asked him, he said, Cactus, where you been past couple of days? He said, oh, man, I was hurt. I had a car wreck or whatever. He said, goddamn, what'd you do to fuck yourself up so bad you couldn't work? Run your car off the edge of the Grand Canyon? And everybody, they were laughing, but they were serious. They'd already seen it, like, what the fuck? What's what can stop this guy? Anyway, go ahead.
What was the reaction when he first got there? Because I'm assuming not many of those guys were watching Dallas TV in 1989 and had seen him. So when he starts doing that stuff, forget about the Mil Mascaras match, because he's already been there a few months by that period of time. But when he starts doing the elbow drop to the floor off the apron and various things, what is the reaction amongst the veterans?
Oh, they're all fucking, not oblivious. They're ballistic. They're bullshit. They're like, what the fuck? They're incredulous is the word I'm searching for. They couldn't believe that he was doing that and getting up and walking. And they all started telling him, you're going to pay for that later on. And it's honestly, it's a miracle that he is not even worse. And he's mentioned that he's in a lot of pain in various times and ways, but no, they couldn't believe it. But see, the thing, that was the one good thing is, if me and Kevin, and Jim Ross was in on it, but he was not really putting the matches together at that point. Me and Kevin were really the only ones that knew what the elbow off the apron looked like, or what the whole deal was. Because like I said, we loved him and wanted to bring him in. Flair did not see the greatness. He was the booker at the time. We had other fish to fry with the contracted talent, so we backdoored Cactus in by bringing him in as one of the job guys, because we could bring anybody in we wanted to, me and Kevin, as long as they were doing jobs on TV. So we then would, whenever the fucks and Steiners would beat Cactus and the partner, after doing a little spot with Cactus or whatever, they would beat the partner. Then Cactus would turn on his partner, and the first night we had him drop the elbow off the apron. Well, he decided to even jazz it up a little further, and he put the guy, he surreptitiously moved the railing in a little bit closer to the ring, but put the guy on the other side of the railing and leaped the fucking railing too, and came down with the elbow, and everybody went, holy shit. If they'd have known what that was going to look like, there's no way probably that anybody would have let us do it. But once it got over so good, that became the thing. And that's how we backdoored him into a spot. So after 6 or 8 weeks of that, he was over enough that they could offer him a deal.
Okay, that's you and Kevin and Jim Ross. What did Flair think? He's the head of the booking committee. Was he a fan early on, or did you have to?
Well, no. I mean, I hate to stir up old wounds. I think they've already cleared that up. But at first, Rick was not. I won't say he didn't think he should be there, or he wasn't a fan of him in general. He didn't see Mick as a top guy. He didn't see him as a main event guy. And he said at first, one time in the first 6 months, he said, because once again, me and Kevin were like, well, what about if Cactus Jack does this? He said, guys, let's do the top first. Can you see Cactus Jack challenging for the NWA World title? Which, truthfully, he was right at that point in time. No.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was going to ask. That's what I was going to ask you. Did you guys actually? I mean, you say it like you thought he would have been a main eventer. Did you guys actually see that in 1989 in Mick Foley?
I don't think we ever saw Mick Foley or Cactus Jack versus Ric Flair for the NWA title, but we saw that Cactus was he was different. He knew what the fuck he was doing, as well as was just doing that goofy shit. He was doing it for a reason to get noticed, but he could talk. And he had the goofy appeal. Kevin loved him also because it was the same thing as when he had Rick Steiner, the dog-faced gremlin. And Kevin loved gimmicks like that you could start as the goofy, lovable heel and then would turn face automatically, and then you could really get him over as baby faces. He was always, Cactus, from the time we first saw him, he was always going to be a high-level gimmick guy. We didn't think he was going to be a future WWF champion or a world champion necessarily anywhere, but he'd been working for fucking 2 years, and I'd seen him 6 months beforehand. He had something. You could book. He would have been a great territory guy. You could have booked him steadily in all the big territories to do that, to come in as a cohort of a top heel, but he's lovable and likable, and the people switch him, and then you do a hot program. In the territory days, he may have got over as a gimmick babyface to some degree in one of the territories where he homesteaded and never left, just worked shots out of it. I could always see there was something that could be done with him from the very start. No, I did not think he was going to be the WWF champion in fucking 7 years or whatever it was.
All right. Well, as I was saying, the 605 Super Podcast, the Mothership. And speaking of the Mothership and the 605 Super Podcast, first let me thank everyone and announce that all shirts are now restocked, sold out of one of the Mothership shirts and the 605 logo shirt, and they're now back in stock. Thank you, though. The fact that they sold out was because so many of the listeners have been supporting the show. I really do appreciate that. And I will get back to editing episode 100 as soon as we're done recording this, because that's what I was doing right before this.
We're just too fucking successful over here in this department to give you any respite for your other fucking programming.
It is getting very busy, but that's a good thing. But go through the archives.
You may need to, Quinn Martin, you may need to fucking it has become Rowan and Martin. You need to take on a production partner.
Well, say goodnight, Dick.
Why do I gotta be Dick?
The 605 Super Podcast, 605pod.com, are available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. The Mothership.
Should we talk about the Wednesday Night War, for fuck's sake?
You bet your sweet Bippy. You set me up. I got you with 2 in a row.
Hey, that was a quick one. Well, you bet your Maltese, Bippy. The only wrestling podcast of the week, ladies and gentlemen, that does obscure Rowan and Martin references for your viewing pleasure. All right. I didn't do what I said I was going to do last week, and you don't know this. We have not worked this out. We have not pre-planned this routine ahead of time. But I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I watched AEW again first. Are you offended by? Are you upset at me? Are we still friends?
It's interesting. I didn't. I ended up doing NXT first, but I did it because I said I was going to. I felt like that pull of going into it, like I should do AEW first. I should do AEW first. They're more likely to do something at some point during this show that'll be like you want to see it live.
Yeah,
but I did NXT and I stuck with it, and I'm happy with that decision actually.
Well, and I don't want to give anything away, but the reason once they announced Kenny Olivier versus Jelly Janela, I said, all right, I just morbid curiosity, right, is going to get me. So, but this, you can say one thing for sure. These two shows were completely different. I think that's obvious.
Oh yeah.
They're different in style and layout and meaning and etc. Let's tackle All Elite just because that's the first one on my pad. And I'd hate to interrupt your order of things, especially since it's something that I agreed to. But nevertheless, they go right into, they're already in the ring. They go right into the intros into the match cold because they want to hook everybody, right? I get what they're doing. But once again, it's not like they opened with Chris Jericho versus Cody Rhodes. To hook people, this is a tag team private party that the vast majority of any mainstream viewing audience had not seen before, 3 weeks ago. And the Lucha Brothers ain't far ahead in terms of, if they're already could have preaching to the choir, that's fine. Because if you always do what you always did, then you always get what you always got, which I understand works both ways. But if they're going to just preach to the people who already know the words to the songs, then they ain't going to get a very big fucking crowd at the revival. Am I fucking getting this point across?
Yeah.
Nobody knew who these fucking people were on a mainstream basis on TNT television, and they're in the ring with no pomp and circumstance, and the announcer's saying it's a huge match, and it's for the tag team tournament, etc., blah, blah, blah. And immediately right off the bat, it's all athleticism. It's all big moves. It made no sense as a match or a contest. There were no tags. There were no rules. There was no set of heat on a babyface or no comeback by a babyface. There was no babyfaces or heels because everybody was cheering both and nobody was really booing either. It was a lot of a lucha match, which by the nature of it, lucha does not make sense. But because lucha in Mexico, that's their style of wrestling. I can't criticize them for that, for their cultural heritage. But a lot of it, especially with people who, even the Lucha Brothers are premier proponents or exponents or practitioners of that. But it's unknown what the fuck is going on with these people to the general audience. And besides that, even lucha is the same thing you have watched lucha tapes from Mexico from the 70s and 80s, where they still made, even though they had some of the lucha things that makes it look wonky to Americans, they made more sense. They didn't do so much goofy stuff. You could understand and follow the rules of lucha then by watching, but now the same thing has happened to them as has happened to us here in America, and now a lot of the guys just do whatever the fuck that they can come up with that's a fancy move without any context or meaning or in front of the referee or behind the referee's back. It's just performance at this point. Did I say this correctly?
Yeah, I think so.
Marc Quinn is amazing. If I hate to say this, people's heads will explode. The best thing that could happen for that guy, because he's such a special athletic talent, is to go to NXT and get the high-level training that both physically and psychologically and from veterans, and that he would get there for a couple of years to slow down, make his shit mean something, uncork the big shit on the special occasions, adapt a personality, be able to talk. It's going to be a common theme. The NXT talent, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, are all better trained and all better polished because it's intensive and they've been living it. Whereas the guys that have just come from the indies have all kinds of habits and they're all over the map with everything. But Marc Quinn, I think, is still be an amazing talent, but as we'll go through this just in a second, but basically it was a video game match. It was a video game match. These guys are not trained in, nor do they give a fuck about psychology or context or contest. They just do everything to everybody. Excalibur at one point was given, and he's still wearing the mask, by the way. Yeah. Francisco Franco is still dead, and day 342, Excalibur is still wearing a mask. It got the opportunity pitched to him to explain why the guys were just running in and out with no tags, and he could have said, well, lucha rules are that as well as tags, also if your partner leaves the ring, you can jump in, and that sometimes that's loosely interpreted, or make some kind of chicken salad out of this shit. And he fumfered that all to fucking hell. At one point, Private Party did after one of them, I can't remember which partner, had got beat up for a second. It did the single coldest, most blasé hot tag to his partner, just rolled to him and just reached his hand out and tagged I've ever seen in a tag match. And then it was just off to the races again with guys diving everywhere. And opponents at one point in a few of these moves were cooperating with their opponent to do a move where the opponent would then do something with his partner. It did. I don't fucking know, right?
There were too many spots in this match where it was clear cooperation, I thought.
A clear cooperation, but you're expecting guys, especially where Private Party's concerned, to do, they're just out of playing fucking playground basketball and they're expected to be playing at NBA level because now they're on TNT and the greenness is showing with these indie guys. And they need to dial this whole fucking thing back. If that's what they're going for, they're going to go for a very limited audience which is basically all the fucking people that know the words to the fucking hymns. Because your average fucking guy working at a gas station somewhere in Cleveland was not going to watch this fucking shit because it was just ridiculous. So anyway, here's my problem. Once again, Marc Quinn does have an incredible shooting star press. Highest one I've ever seen. Gets a 2 count. Second time he's got a 2 count with that in 3 weeks. Then Private Party hit their Hurricane Rana into the RKO perfectly again for the second time in 3 weeks. It was not the finish because they did it to the wrong guy, the illegal guy, right? That's when they decided for the first time in the fucking match that the referee was going to, at this point, even remember who the fucking legal opponent was, right?
Yeah, really.
But what they wanted to get their move in. So they came up with, we'll just hit the illegal guy so you can't cover him. So what they've done is they've just, in 3 weeks, they've done their 450 and their fucking double team move twice each. And none of those times has it been the finish. So they've killed those fucking moves. Because now who wants to get beat by them? They haven't beat anybody else so far. You don't hit a goddamn move like that for the first 3 or 6 months that you're a fucking team. Unless it's going to be the fucking finish, especially if you're baby faces. If you're heels, you can get away with missing them a little bit sooner. But you got to establish them first, or elsewise it's just gaga. And that's prettier gaga than anybody on their roster is going to be able to do as a tag team finish. So they're just, I don't know what the fuck. And then the Lucha Brothers hit a package fucking pile driver, double stomp, whatever the fuck, and beat Marc Quinn. That's the goddamn star, American star waiting to happen. I know the Lucha Brothers are big in Mexico and they work here in MLW, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe not for long. Who knows? They're here.
AEW.
Okay, AEW. Wherever the fuck, Marc Quinn's going to be, if any of these 4 guys is going to be a big star in the United States of America over the next 10 years, is going to be Marc Quinn. And they're beating him and letting him do all his best shit and gets him nowhere. Once again, incredible athletics and gymnastics. It's completely lost the plot for pro wrestling. This was a fucking video game. I was worn out watching it afterwards. What'd you think?
Well, again, I watched NXT first, so that probably made it a little more stark going into that.
Yeah.
There, without spoiling the NXT review, there was a part of NXT at some point where it felt like, oh, this is so long. And that's just the nature of a show that goes more than 90 minutes for the most part on wrestling. By the end of it, I was back into it. I was like, oh, this is great. I wish it kept going. And I was in a good place after that. Took like a half-hour break. And then I went to the DVR and watched AEW, and I watched this match. And I feel like an old man. I'm going to be 40 soon. I guess I should just fully embrace it. It felt like it was just so much. It was just too much. It was too much, just nonstop. Everyone kicks out of everything. I said it last time too, the fucking 450. I remember when Too Cold Scorpio debuted as the surprise partner for Ron Simmons as the Clash of the Champions. No one knew who the fuck he was. And all of a sudden he hit that move and it blew everyone's mind. I never thought people were just going to kick out of that. It's just going to be a move in the middle of it.
Yeah, in the middle of the match somewhere. Yeah.
And it goes, and just everything, it's just a general complaint with AEW. Every match, if it doesn't go forever, it feels like it goes forever, and it goes on and on and on. And then I feel like the one thing that would be really effective are the promos, and the one they finally did was really effective, but it had different people, but we'll talk about that later. But it just felt like too much, just nonstop. People like that, though. What do I know? I'm just a 30-year wrestling fan who has, traveled and spent money and
just a young man. Gosh, it's only been 47 for me. But anyway, next match of SCU, Daniels got dropped on his head, as you will recall, and they updated us on that. So it's Kazarian and Scorpio Sky in the tag tournament against the Dark Order, and they play that Dark Order video. They are desperately trying to get these fucking guys over. And do they have pictures of someone with a goat?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Like, you and I are especially you, shitting on the Dark Order, but typically with AEW, the things you don't like, their fans just embrace. Even their fans aren't embracing the Dark Order.
No, they don't get, because it's goofy and it's sloppy and it's outlaw and it's just the entrance with the creepers just ain't getting over. The fat guy in the mask is embarrassing. And once again, they used to be the Super Smash Brothers. They were dressed up, and I didn't even know there was a video game called the Super Smash Brothers until after I'd seen the tag team. But they dressed up, both of them, in masks and full body outfits, and they called themselves after these two characters in a video game. And in Ring of Honor 9 years ago, Kevin Steen used to try to push them to me. And they used to get booked to do jobs on HD net television. And the first time I looked at it, I saw the fat guy without his mask. I thought it was the guy working at the fucking concession stand and had wandered into the locker room. So I know why he's wearing a mask, but he needs to wear a fucking hefty bag to cover up the whole fucking body, a full body condom or something. Anyway, I had these fucking lunatics on the internet while we were trying to build Ring of Honor as a major wrestling company. Well, we had teams like Chris Hero and Claudio Castagnoli, the Kings of Wrestling, and Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, and Mark and Jay Briscoe, and Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards. And the internet fans were actually, the Super Smash Brothers are the best tag team in wrestling. No, it was fucking goofy. And they did a bunch of flips, and they were outlaw. They were indie. They were indie-minded. And here we are 9 years later, and their indie friends get some fucking pull. And this has been foisted off on national television. Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky are 2 levels above not only their opponents here, but anybody on the program so far in terms of look, poise, experience, work, confidence, attitude. They made Grayson look good. The fat guy is just too outlaw to just take, and it's not even a Dusty Rhodes will overlook the physique because of the promo. It's fucking outlaw. And if Dark Order was a job team and this was a 6-minute squash, it would have been fine. Otherwise, this was malfeasance of national television time. But at least I could tell who the babyface knew the heels were. It's just that the heels fucking sucked. And they started getting heat on Scorpio Sky and went through a fucking break and expected this thing to keep the audience through a commercial break. Anyway, they might as well burn some fucking money if they're trying to foist them off. Let me turn my page here. When they went to the break and came back, that's when Inner Circle walked in and tore the house down. And people are like, "My God, somebody just hit me in the head because I see some stars." And to kill the whole fucking match dead, what there was of it. Scorpio Sky made a cold tag to Frankie Kazarian, who made a great comeback, and then it kept going forever again. And they buried Ref Aubrey. And SCU made a backslap blind tag. God damn it. Do the right people not listen to this program? And then somehow Dark Order broke out of SCU's cool double dragon sleepers. They did a bunch of false finishes. I don't know what the fuck was going on. And finally, SCU won about 6 or 8 minutes too late. Hello?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to add to that. Dark Order sucks. SCU looks like I hate to use the term main roster tag team. They have a great look. And I'm thoroughly unimpressed with the AEW tag team division. That was supposed to be one of the big jewels of AEW, this international tag team division personally curated by the Young Bucks. And
okay. Here, riddle me this, Batman. Are we starting to see what the biggest problem is going to be here? Is that the All Elite Wrestling roster is a lot fucking thinner than we thought it was. Because when you look at who we've seen on their television shows so far. A lot of people have repeated. Several people have been on multiple weeks. If you had some better guys in reserve than this, wouldn't you be using them by now? That's the problem is their opposition has unlimited talent reserves because they can move anybody around they want to if it gets in any way ugly. And I'm not seeing a lot because they concentrated, as I mentioned. Instead of going out and recruiting the absolute best talent that's waiting to be stars, they recruited their best play friends that they like to play with. And this is going to bite them in the ass. And, 10 years ago, once again, look at the 2009 through 2011 Ring of Honor roster. For in-ring performance and serious credibility as athletes, we didn't have Chris Jericho, and we didn't have Cody Rhodes. We didn't have Jon Moxley as far as name value. But look once again at the guys that I mentioned, the tag teams I just mentioned, plus fucking guys like Jay Lethal and Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole and Bob. Oh, I forgot all of Undisputed Era on the opposition program we had in Ring of Honor. Some of the best, actually the best of the rest at that point that was not signed with TNA or the WWE was with Ring of Honor, and still, it was challenging, and still, his timing was not too good, and Sinclair didn't want to spend this much money. But Ring of Honor at that point had a better roster than All Elite Wrestling has now. So anyway, we're starting to see that. And I don't know why that they will not let these matches end when they should end.
The other day I got a collection of All South Wrestling programs from 73 and 74 in Atlanta. And I actually had that thought that if they don't do things right, or if they don't have access to the right people, this could be a similar situation where you look at some of those cards like, man, these are great. And then you look a year later, it's the same guys on the cards.
Yeah, either that or some of them had filtered away and not been replaced by people of the same stature.
Right. And it's just, if you don't have access to the guys, what do you do? And I have thought about how short their roster does seem at times.
And here's something else, ladies and gentlemen, that perhaps maybe it's just because there's no pride left in the wrestling business and people will do anything for money. But in a previous era, guys would have been looking, go, wait a minute. I don't know if I want to go to work for them because I'm certainly not wanting to take bumps for 100-pound fucking school child. Or, do something foolish or whatever the fuck. This was supposed to be wrestling run by the wrestlers, but now we find out it has to be the right wrestlers. Because the ones that they got are fucking nuts.
Yeah, I only want the revival to go there if Scott Dawson's going to be the one laying out the match.
There you go.
Because otherwise, I don't want to see this.
Well, speaking of which, let's go ahead and get to the reason why I watched this thing live. Up comes Jelly Janela and Kenny Olivier. And I heard they had the garbage match with all the implements and the thumbtacks and all that stuff. So I was hoping they'd do that again so that I could really knock it. But they didn't. So I can only really knock them as individuals. Here's the thing. They didn't do anything. There was no invisible men. There was nothing obviously phony or silly. They did what they were doing in a serious fashion. And I get what Omega is trying to do, or whatever whoever's booking this is trying to do, or whatever. They're trying to get Janela over as on Omega's level. Would you concur with that?
I don't know about on Omega's level, but
well, getting over so he can elevate him and raise him out. Here's the problem. The problem is Joey Janela, Jelly Janela, pus-filled pocket pussy, the glob of preserve that falls off the biscuit and lands on your carpet and gets all mixed up with the dog hairs. From the time he comes down the ramp, he looks like shit. This little goof trying to look like a badass on his entrance. It gets heat. If he was a pure heel, he's not trying to be a heel. He's not working like a heel. If he would do that entrance as a little fucking piece of shit heel that was trying to get some heat, it might work. But I think he's serious. And that's what disturbs me.
He reminds me a little bit of? Imagine Jimmy Jam Garvin off the steroids.
No,
the glasses and the look.
Hey, I saw Jimmy Garvin when he was 18 years old in like 1973, and he was still a lot more physically impressive. But anyway, from the time you see him, it's just, come on. Then I'm trying to look at this as just two guys having a match. So here comes Omega with the jazz hands. If this was a Ric Flair, instead of limousine flying, jet riding, whatever the fuck, he'd be a jazz hands having, finger pointing, goofy face making, prissy prancing, ballet dancing, Harpo Marx look. I apologize for saying that Kenny Olivier looks like Harpo Marx or reminds me of Harpo Marx, because I saw the Marx Brothers movies on TCM the other day, and Harpo Marx was talented. Yeah. But here's the thing. Janela's a child with no physique, and Omega distracts me with his he's a stagey show wrestler. He's just, I don't know. And they did some decent rolling around to start, but by a couple minutes in, here comes Olivier with a dive to the floor, and his movements are stagey and overdone. And Janela, to me, was trying to work like Omega. And probably succeeding. So it were just, but here was my whole problem with the match. And they didn't do anything offensive or anything bad, anything stupid, just a lot of stuff. But if Kenny Omega is their top guy and it takes him this long, another 2 segments, and it's this hard to beat what everybody looks at as an obvious schlub, regardless how they're going to push him, this guy can't get over in any kind of mainstream way. Visually, psychologically, it diminishes. If he was going to make him look good like Ric Flair made George South look good, and then beat him fairly convincingly after giving him some offense in about 6 minutes, I wouldn't have seen anything wrong with doing that. And nothing they did was necessarily wrong. It just did too much of it. Because, I mean, you can't be fucking mental enough to think that people are going to view Jelly Janela as a top guy. I'm sorry. And Olivier's knee into his fucking finish thing did look very nice. I'll compliment him.
It was clearly Janela trying to display more wrestling than I've ever seen him display. At least, I haven't seen any of his independent.
Well, yeah, and the announcers were, telling the story. He doesn't want to be known as a hardcore guy. He wants to be known as a wrestler. Well, get a goddamn job at Walmart and be known as a fucking, baggage cart collector, because that's what appearance-wise you're suited for, young man. Okay. And I wrote this down. Well, I mean, what was there anything? Did you have any thoughts on any of this that I don't know?
No, it was what it was. Like I said, it was fine for what it was. Every match goes on for a very long time, and it's Janela tried to show some wrestling, and what was next, Jim?
1 hour into the program, and it's our first interview, our first promo, and Tony Schiavone's in the ring with Cody Rhodes, or Cody, and the Inner Circle are doing the air horn thing, and they've already been up there eating the popcorn and everything. I think Jericho's thinking back to an old Smoky Mountain television show where the Stud Stable were down ringside throwing popcorn at the fucking rock and roll and blah, 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 perhaps. Anyway, I don't know how they got the PA mic in the VIP box. That was a little, I know they had tickets and everything, but you don't get a PA microphone to be part of the show just because you get the VIP box. That was a little fucking loose thread there. But Cody got the people up big time. He was milking it. Jericho's promo was fucking classic. The whole daring the fucking babyface to come up and do something about it. Cody's milking it. Then here comes Dustin. Then here comes MJF, and I don't know where this is going, but if MJF said it, I'm going to love it. Jericho, who's going to be afraid of a guy wearing a scarf. Here comes DDP. They got the legends in. They're whipping these people. They're giving these people a fucking hand job, 10,000 of them all at the same time or whatever. I'm sorry, they're not doing that anymore. 5,000 of them all at the same time. This was fucking great. And then finally, when they go up there to that box and they did the fucking wrap his hand in the scarf and punch the door thing. I'm like, this is fucking great. And here we go. And it's Tupelo with a budget all over again for a second. That's wrestling. A big brawl in the arena concourse, promos back and forth. This, I wrote in capital letters, this is the best thing ever on AEW television. And once again, Jericho and or Cody and or Jericho involved always in the best thing on the show. Have you noticed this?
Yeah, no, I had the same thought. Best thing AEW has had on their television or on any of their shows by a long shot. I did like, too, when Cody was, Jericho's yelling at him from up there. We're used to seeing one guy on the stage and one guy in the ring, and they just yell at each other. And he said, we're not on the other show. I can come up there.
Yeah.
And that got a nice little pop. And then they go up there and they let it go through the commercial, too. And Jericho's there. He's got his ticket. There were fans were all around. Security kept diving in. There were guys just all over the place. It was great.
Oh, and by the way, the invisible wall, somebody on Twitter said, what is that, a phrase they use? And the first time I heard that, you know who said that to me?
No.
Bill Watts. 1984, one of the first things I learned when I got in the Mid-South locker room, I later learned that he would say it often, was that, goddamn it, he was so used to, or he's so incensed by the wrestling shows where as soon as the baby faces made the save and the heels hopped out, when they were on the floor, suddenly they stopped and it was like they're an invisible wall. He'd say, it's like an invisible wall comes up. You can't go through. If you fucking stop, he wanted the goddamn baby faces to jump out and beat the fuck out of you, right? So it was a goddamn chase scene to get away from these motherfuckers making saves in Mid-South Wrestling because it looked more real that way. If you couldn't expect them to fucking hold up. If you didn't get out of the way, your ass was fucking toast. And it made for a little more panic in those situations. But yeah, the invisible wall. I popped when I heard that.
Like you said, again, another segment with Cody and or Jericho being the best thing on the show. I've been critical of Jericho for a few years. I've loved everything I've seen with him in AEW so far, at least since the TV started. Let me specify that because he's been able to show more of his character. But this is the problem. I love this segment. I thought the segment was fucking great. There wasn't a single other promo, at least nothing that's popping into my head as I think about it, which tells you part of the story. Not another promo on the show. Not another Tony Schiavone with the microphone talking to a guy and let's see the crowd react. And I think that's what you need.
Hold on here. Let's just go back. We heard Private Party in a package. I don't think we want to hear them on a live microphone. The Lucha Brothers are limited with their English. SCU has been doing the catchphrase bullshit. I'm sure they can do better, but they've not been letting them. And do you want to hear Janela or Omega talk?
No, but you got Moxley on the roster. Moxley could do really good promos.
Okay, well, I'm just saying so far, once again, we're talking about a thin roster, and of the roster, they haven't loaded up on great promos either.
But where was Hangman Adam Page tonight or last night?
That's a good question.
There's a place
I have no idea.
Have him do a promo if he's not going to win.
There you go. So we can hear what these guys fucking sound like, because that was once again, that's why I said an hour in and first promo, but at least it was great.
Can I ask you a question, just based on your knowledge of various characters involved here? Cody left the WWE and connected right away with the Young Bucks, and they rode that wave. I mean, it was already kind of happening with the Bucks and Omega. Cody jumped in, rode that wave a little bit, and then certainly helped elevate things, and probably is the single guy responsible more than the others for getting it past a certain point and where it is now. They all worked together. It was all one unit. They were all a team, doing all in together and all these things. At what point are they going to have a problem where I'm trying to book really serious shit on this show and the show's schizophrenic because you're booking all this other stuff in your tag team division or whatever it may be? Because you could definitely see the clear divide in what is I'm not, Do
you think they're actually letting individual guys book into, like somebody's booking the tag team division and somebody's booking the individual? Because that's just insane to begin with. There needs to be somebody in charge of everything, and then everybody else gives them ideas.
And the female division, obviously.
Well, everything. Omega. Somebody needs to be in. Well, fuck. All right. Anyway. Next match, guess what? It's a tag team match. The Young Bucks versus the Best Friends. So we got a bunch of chucks and fucks in the ring. This is where once again talent depth was an issue, because we've seen the Best Friends a bunch. But now here came whether you like Orange Cassidy or not. I'm not even going to talk about how stupid this whole thing is. I'm going to ask everybody a question. Here come the Young Bucks and the Best Friends for a tag team tournament match, right?
No.
What? No,
it's not in the tournament. Both.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not. That's right. It's not a tournament. It's a tag team match. It's not a tournament match. But here come my question. I'm going to ask is, here come the Young Bucks and the Best Friends for a tag team match. Here is their friend Orange Cassidy with the Best Friends in the ring. Well, there's Orange Cassidy. On any other television program, when you don't know who somebody is, do they act like you do? And just say, well, here's Orange Cassidy. Why does this fucking idiot, why is he dressed that way? Why does he stick his hands in his pockets? Why does he act like he doesn't know what fuck's going on or give a shit? Why did he jump up onto the top rope and jump off with his hands in his pockets, nearly killing himself and the opponents probably in the process, in front of the referee, and was allowed to do so? Who is this fucking guy? Not just a person that I dislike because he's an embarrassing piece of shit, but for the average person sitting at home, why do you think, All Elite Wrestling, that anybody knows who this fucking clown is or why he's acting that way? I don't even know why he acts that way, just other than to be a phony wrestler. And when he play kicked the Young Bucks in the shins and then they super kicked him, well, why? Why would you play kick? They explain nothing. Nothing about this guy makes any fucking sense except to be just a phony parody of a wrestler. And they just act like everybody knows. The match was the same old shit. Same match they always have. Same match everybody has. They did a bunch of big moves back and forth with no tags. It made no sense. There were no baby faces. There were no heels. They went through a break. They came back and did more nonsense back and forth. Chuck Taylor especially looked so fucking outlaw. More big moves. It's a complete mess by now. And then the Bucks won. And then the Bucks accept Santana and Ortiz's challenge in 5 words. And that was it. Or challenge, challenge or dare or whatever the fuck.
When did they make that challenge?
I don't know. Maybe last week, I guess it was, or whatever. But they say 5 fucking words. Everybody's scared to talk. They just go out and act, goofy, but they're scared to talk themselves over because they can't. Then they go to a Britt Baker package. Did you like the Young Bucks and Best Friends, by the way?
You almost got away from me there.
Almost got away from you.
I'm not a big fan of that style. I've said Nick Jackson's very, very talented. Clearly, the Mongoloid Johnny Mundo one I haven't figured out yet if I really like him much. But, this is where you and I are going to disagree. I thought Orange Cassidy was the best part of the whole match. And
what?
I hate to disparage someone I love so much like Harpo Marx, but I'm going to compare him to Harpo Marx in this sense. I'm not into this big move, and Chuck Taylor sucks. I'm not into that kind of match. So I like, you watch a Marx Brothers movie and Groucho's got his stuff going on, usually torturing Margaret Dumont or something. And then eventually he runs into Chico, and you get a scene with Groucho and Chico, maybe a couple scenes, establishing this weird relationship, this weird friendship. And then in the middle of those scenes, Harpo will randomly just show up, do something crazy, and leave. That was Orange Cassidy in this match. There's just shit happening all over the place, and then randomly, he's on the top rope, and he jumps on everyone else. He just pops up out of nowhere in the middle of the match. He ended up being my favorite part of the entire match. I have to be honest. It doesn't make any sense, but it was ridiculous. I liked it because it was so ridiculous. That's all I have to say about
that. Anyway, so they go then to Britt Baker, who is obviously the most marketable female wrestler that they have on the roster. And they show a nice package on her and everything. And then here comes the match, and it's Jamie Hayter from the UK versus Dr. Britt Baker, who we understand is a doctor of dentistry. And within a couple minutes, they're on the floor. They're fighting on the floor. It's a fucking girls' match. And it should have been a match to get their top girl over. Once again, it's not a main event match. It's not a grudge match. It's not a no rules match. It's a girls' match. Why are they fighting on the floor? For fuck's sake. Well, after I saw some of the stuff in the ring, maybe I understand. But as it used to be when someone was in charge of these things and knew how to structure shows, if you were on the undercard, or if you had a cold match, or unless you were somebody like Abdullah the Butcher, Wild Bull Curry, or the Sheik, and that was your gimmick, you were discouraged or forbidden from going to the floor just because now everybody's doing that too. Then they went through the break. By the time they came back from the break and Britt Baker's getting the shit kicked out of her, I'm screaming, who are they pushing? I used to do it all in Ring of Honor. I'd be in the TV truck. I'd turn around and yell at Delirious. I'd have a 6 or 7 minute TV match with entrances for a top heel to get a win. And I'd lay it out and say, okay, heel, shine your baby face up with a couple of spots and then cut him off, get some fucking heat. Slip on a banana peel, crash and burn, let him make a comeback. 1 false finish, maybe 2 if they're feeling it, and then fucking cut him off, hit your finish, boom, 1, 2, 3. A couple of spots to shine the baby face is like 1 tackle, drop down, hip toss, drop kick, arm drag. Oh, golly. Fucking heel backs him up to the ropes, cuts him off with a knee in the stomach, shoots him off, goes for the clothesline. Duck that, come off with a crossbody. Drop, keep rolling. Drop kick, arm drag. He's back in the arm drag. Oh, shit. Now cut him off. Instead, they would go through, especially if somebody they liked, they were working with. Grizzly Redwood at 140 pounds or whatever. The babyface would do so much to kick the shit out of the heel at the start that I would turn and scream, who are we fucking pushing? Just because you can have a competitive match with somebody doesn't mean you're supposed to. They did too much. It got sloppy. Britt Baker won with her finish in twice the time that she should have gone. She doesn't need to go that long, especially not with this girl, and not on television. It was a failure for what they should have been trying to accomplish in her hometown. Don't have a classic match in your hometown. Go out and get over in 6 minutes in your hometown. It's the 4th week of television. What do you think?
I thought it was the best Britt Baker looked in a match on TV.
It's the only single match she's had yet, isn't it?
It is, but I think some of the other tag matches, I just didn't think they
were worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the best she looked. I think she has a lot of potential. I just think, the match went too long, and that goes into the whole potential thing. You're doing her a disservice by putting her out there for a long match like that. I don't know. I would have had her win in 5 minutes, 6 minutes, but
there you go.
That's me.
And there you go. The only thing left was the main event, by God. And I liked Pac. We still haven't come to a quorum on all that. Pac.
I think.
I liked Pac attacking. Say that 3 times fast. Moxley with the chair, etc., on the floor and kicking the shit out of him. Pac looks great. I mean, some of the shit that he does, the flips and landing on his feet at that size and body thickness, he looks like a badass. He looks like a star. Moxley, we've established over the last few weeks, can work. Physically, he doesn't scare me like a lot of people compare him to Terry Funk. Terry was bigger, taller, rangier, and more psychotic. But still, they had a nice fight. I hated that they throw the forearms, not punches, but a lot of guys do that. Punch should be the easiest thing to do, but all these guys can do these fucking backflips into goddamn quadruple fucking Death Valley drivers, can't throw a punch. But I hate the forearms in a fight. But this had timing and pacing. It halfway made sense. The shit looked good. If all the underneath talent hadn't done everything it was possible to do first, this would have gotten over even better than it did. And the people that were there in the building, once again, for the kind of people who like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing those people like, they were into it. It would have been, even them, they would have been more into it if everybody else on the card hadn't done 3 times as much. And then here comes the main event talent that can't follow it because grown men can't do that kind of shit. So this was fine, but it was at the end of a very long fucking show with a lot of unnecessary shit in it, punctuated by the fucking single segment of the night with the fight up in the concourse. Oh, and one more thing, and the TV time limit draw. It's great to see that come back, but boy, it's going to take a while before people are not pissed by it, because they're pissed by it because they haven't seen it in so fucking long.
Man, they had like 2 hot endings to shows and then 2, the show's over, we'll see you next week.
Well, see, here's the they should not have. They could have done the TV time limit draw and had a 45-second afterbirth that would have left the people happy instead of just ending it flat. Because I think everybody can understand that the announcers could have even covered during the 45 to 60 seconds. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the time had expired and we've got just 45 seconds to sign off. But my God, he's taken that hand grenade, he's pulled the pin, and he shoved it up Jimmy's ass. Oh, my God, where's Jimmy's head going to land when it blows? Holy shit. Or just, well, I went to a draw, folks. We'll see you next week. Something could have happened.
Did you see the jelly sign in the crowd?
I did not.
Come on. You didn't see that?
Well, I'm looking at, I'm either looking at my notepad or I'm looking at the match. I'm not scanning for fucking side. Because, see, I try to jot down these things because it's so much for me to remember that sucks.
So MJF has called him Jelly Janela now. I saw Sean Spears tweeted out something calling him Jelly Janela with a picture of him eating a donut. And now some fan, I'm assuming a listener of the program, brought a sign and held it up during the match that said Jelly. I'm sure as soon as someone hears this, they'll send you a photo of this. What do you think that this is taking off and getting over?
I guess it's just because I have such a succinct way of stating the obvious. See? That was succinct right there.
Yes. Powering right through those barriers mentally and physically and psychologically.
I'm still working on breathing. Shall we go to the second program of the week?
Yeah, let's talk about the other show, which is the show I watched first, as you were supposed to.
In that case, you're going to go first. We're going to change this shit up a little bit. As we go segment by segment, you tell me what you thought first.
Okay. I don't have a list of the segments.
I have. I'll bring them up, and you vote on them.
Okay.
The open of this show, and once we've talked about, they're in a fucking shark-infested waters with producing television from a professional production standpoint, because nobody's better in television right now, in wrestling television, than the WWE. And they did a great action package from last week. Mauro Ranallo's intro is great from that crow's nest. It felt like a wrestling show right from the open, but it's dark. Their lighting treatments are dark. I don't like when the crowd is lit up for the matches. I think that's distracting. But everything they do, even some of the entrances or some of the videos, it just seem dark. We've brought that up before. You and I have.
Yeah, we have. And, this was definitely a week where I watched it and I really enjoyed it. And I liked the room. And I thought to myself, they have their own network. They should do a show in Full Sail every week. And then they should do this show as a takeover every week in a medium-sized building with a live, rowdy crowd, because that's the way you should see it. And just real quick, in terms of production, because I should have mentioned it earlier, AEW, how many it's nonstop high spots, I get it, but how many high spots, how many just regular spots did the cameras miss?
Well, that's because the guys, I can tell you although somebody should have had this scouted, the producer in the truck. Here's the thing. I was flummoxed the first time I saw the Lucha Brothers do the thing where they do their double stomp and then the guy just runs off and dives in a completely different direction. As a matter of fact, on an MLW show one time, they did that, and the guy making the pin happened at the same time as the dive, and people missed the pin. So at least this time they wait a beat for to not do it simultaneously. But the producers should have that scouted, or if they aren't being told, they need to blister the talent, because the producer ought to be in the truck. That's what I used to do in TNA and in Ring of Honor, and tell the director, hey, there's a dive coming up or there's something screwy coming up. But I don't see really how anybody could keep track of this shit, because it's a goddamn open air pinball machine on AEW at least. Anyway.
What did you think about what I said about the fact that this week I'm watching and thinking, I wish this was in an arena the size of AEW's arena, like an NXT TakeOver?
Well, yeah, and that would be better for the atmosphere, or more comparable for the atmosphere between the two shows. But at the same time, there's no reason why the building that they're in right now, they can't just light up a little bit differently. They don't have to keep it down where you can't see that it's not a big building. Let's see the fucking full, brightness of the building they got. I don't know. It just seems a little dark. But the first match was Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair.
And I love this match. I thought this was great. Great way to start the show. I mentioned, I think last week, that I was kind of into where they were going with the women's division. They had 4 top contenders, it seemed, from the weeks we've been watching. These were 2 of them. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Morrow is really, really good. I tweeted this out. When the crowd isn't so loud, he knows how to make the match sound much more energetic than it actually is in the room.
Yes.
And he did that during this match, and I enjoyed it. I think Bianca Belair is a star. Rhea Ripley's great, too. I'm not taking anything away from her, but Bianca Belair, I think, is a star. And what did you think, Jim?
I felt the same way, but opposite. I loved the match. It was the best women's match that I saw from either program all night. I think that Rhea Ripley is the star. And I'm not saying Bianca Belair won't be, but my Rhea Ripley is because she looks different. She's big. She has a different look. She's not just one of the model looking crowd. But she has a striking and athletic and different and big look. Anyway, they did tight lockups. They worked the test of strength good. They used holds. They took their time. It felt like a contest. Rhea Ripley took a slam off the top. I haven't seen a man or woman take just a simple slam off the fucking top, and I don't know how long. It was a good story for a match with a larger baby face, because she can't really sell and get a ton of little girl sympathy, so they worked it right. Right, they went to a break right when I was about to say, well, let's go home. You've got it so good. But when they came back, it wasn't too long that Rhea Ripley did that beautiful big boot to stop Bianca Belair, but then she went and sold to the ropes. It wasn't like she went from zero to hero just instantly. She sold to the ropes and was down so that they could still build up for a little comeback. I love that fucking standing leg lock that she gets, whatever. I couldn't hear what they called it. But the clover leaf when she pulls the girl up, and then when Belair got to the floor, Ripley did a safe cannonball. It looked fine, but it was safe. And boom, that was a nice little spot. That wasn't too much on the floor. They weren't out there, so long they needed to pay rent. And then they did a nice finish where Io Shirai, who I guess is a heel. I didn't know that last week, but she's a heel now.
Yeah, we got a lot of shit for that.
Yeah, we got shit for that. But she hit, and they did a big 2-count false finish. Here comes Candice LeRae and takes Io out, and Rhea hits her finish. 1, 2, 3. Great stuff. That was that was fine. That was a good match.
I said it last week, and I'll say it here, and we say it again later in the show. It's night and day, the AEW women's division and the NXT one. The NXT one is great. I really, really like it.
And then guess where we went? We went to an interview. What is the young lady's name that's doing the interviews? The backstage and parking lot, wherever the fuck. Blonde lady, blonde woman.
Is it Kathy? Is it Kathleen?
I don't know.
I think it's
anyway.
Kathy, maybe. I don't know.
Walking in the parking lot were Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. And Pete Dunne, I've had some good matches here. I'm not saying anything bad about either one, but fuck, at least now we know they still make somas. What the fuck? Because the female interviewer gets more verbiage in than the talent does. The talent's just walking in the parking lot, and they're walking in the parking lot, and they spoke just monotonely. They were cruising on Lake Havasoma, just like that. There was no we're coming in to take care of some business or whatever the fuck, just some oomph. Give me something to work with. It was just bleh. And then they go to probably the best package, definitely the best package all night on Ciampa, and juxtaposing or opposing the surgery with the fucking training and him talking, and it was pro wrestling, and it got him over as a fucking badass, and the comeback, blah, blah, blah. That was a great piece of business. And I want to see more of Ciampa, like that was any question already. But that stuff they do great. So far, this is a pro wrestling program, and it's serious. Then we come to Matt Riddle and Cameron Grimes. You give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah,
there we go.
The first thing is, I hate to say it, because of you, I had to focus on Matt Riddle's outfit. I'm like, oh, well, what's Jim going to say? Is he going to approve of the Laker colors or whatever? I've kind of really wanted to see Cameron Grimes based on the way they had built him up the last few weeks.
Yeah.
It was an all right match.
Yeah.
That's really all I have to say.
Well, I'll take over. What the fuck? I don't know what they were trying to do here, because unless the guys just went out and just lost themselves. Matt Riddle, he looks goofy, but he's likable. I understand that. He did the fist bump and the funny way of walking and the weird clothing or whatever, but he's a gimmick babyface. So I'm okay.
And he's a legit badass, so he kind of makes that.
And he's legit, so but it's somewhat distracting a little bit, but maybe it's for the young folks. Cameron Grimes, I love the way he looks, because he doesn't have a jacked up body and he doesn't have a tan, but he's got body hair, so he looks like a goddamn grown adult. He kind of reminds me of that crazy look of Outlaw Billy Black. And we've seen not only can he fucking go, he can work, but also that double foot stomp. He's won twice in a row in like 6 seconds with that thing. It looks fucking great. And both these guys started off, they were different than anybody else on the show. And they were approaching it like a contest. They did a little good wrestling. But then I realized, what the fuck? I've seen enough of Matt Riddle's kicks, especially his chest kicks. He started doing the same shit over and over. He did a great jackhammer, and people start chanting, Riddle, Riddle. The jackhammer was better than Goldberg's. Of course, he's also 100 pounds lighter than Goldberg. But Matt Riddle, the babyface, Riddle beat Cameron Grimes up for so long that in my mind he was turning heel, because he's just beating this guy up. And then that Cameron Grimes does that backflip escape into a German suplex. And I'm like, okay, let's see some fucking heat. And they go to the break right out of that hot move. Then when they come back, the first thing you see on the screen is fucking Riddle kicking the shit out of fucking Cameron Grimes again. And by now, to me, Cameron Grimes is and he's trying to just struggling, trying to get away. He's the baby face and Matt Riddle's the heel. And Riddle's still kicking the shit out of the guy and doing the same shit over and over. And I wrote, what the fuck? And then Cameron Grimes, out of nowhere, hits his fucking finish that's beat these other people in 6 seconds and gets a 2 count. And then Matt Riddle hits a superplex after he's already absorbed Cameron Grimes' big double stomp finish and gets a 2 count. And then Riddle does a flipping dive off the top rope onto Cameron Grimes' knees. But seconds later, they're both reversing shit and trading kicks and knees. And then even hit a flippy crossbody Spanish fly thing. And then Matt Riddle did a bunch of shit and beat Cameron Grimes. And then Cameron Grimes rolls out on the floor, and after Matt Riddle takes his victory lap, Tyler Bate in the front row, Cameron Grimes shoves him, and fucking Tyler Bate knocks him out with one punch. That used to be how you would use a guy his last night in the fucking territory.
You know what? So we talked about Mick Foley earlier. Remember Mick Foley after he lost to Mil Mascaras and then he went and got beat up by the lead guitar player of the
well,
band?
yeah, maybe. Well, and that was my deal, and maybe they're trying to do the same thing here because but that was only because we knew that Mascaras wouldn't do any business any other way, and I wanted to get some attention back on Cactus, But if everybody cooperating in a perfect world, no, I don't know why the fuck that Matt Riddle beat the fuck out of Cameron Grimes through this whole match and then beat him and then they knocked him out with one punch. And plus they just, it wasn't a good match and they did too much shit at the end back and forth for after wasting each other's big fucking finishes. It didn't work. And I hate that because I want to like Cameron Grimes. Matt Riddle,
it's kind of like Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times. Like, think of that.
Well, but I got a soft spot for Cameron Grimes because he looks like an actual fucking wrestler from the territories. Anyway, here was another problem coming up. They had the Donovan Dijakovic inset promo. They had a couple of these inset promo. One later on with Roderick Strong. Blah. It was fake and stagey, and they were reciting verbiage they were given. I think Keith Lee did one.
That one was awful, and it wasn't his fault. It was the script he was given.
Well, yeah, it's a fucking 30-second promo. Give the guy the gist. I'm going to get even because you pissed on my leg last week, or goddamn you kicked my fucking poodle. It's 30 seconds. Let him just say something. It's those are horrible. They do great production on the packages, the inset sit downs, because they're telling them each word to recite, obviously, because nobody talks like that. These guys don't. And there's no emotion. So that was rotten. The 6-man tag, Breezango and Swerve Scott versus the Forgotten Sons of Wesley Blake, Jackson Riker, and I didn't write that. And I wrote down something Blake. I wrote Blake down twice. Who's the fucking third guy?
I don't know. This was remember I said in the middle of NXT, I was like, the show's too long. This was the match where it kind of set in. And I tuned out.
You swear to God.
I zoned out of this match, yes.
Okay, I fast forwarded.
You see?
Well, I saw Breezango's entrance, and I said, I don't care what they do. I'm not going to be interested in this. And I looked at the Forgotten Sons for a second, but I said, here, last week, we had, in the same tag match, we had 3 bald guys wearing black trunks and knee pads. The Forgotten Sons, even though they put their names up on the goddamn screen behind them, still, they're fucking fake names, and they're not well established, and there's 3 guys that look very similar. They all look great. And I'd probably like to see a tag match or something. But after that Breezango entrance, I was off my feet on this thing, and I skipped it. And we came back with the Roderick Strong inset where last week I said, my God, they got passion and emotion out of Roddy. He was yelling. He was hot. He was over This was the same problem he's always had with verbiage times 10 because they gave him ridiculously flowery verbiage. And it was like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, just reciting it. We come in peace. And then Leo Rush made his entrance, and they went to the break. I don't know if I'd have given people an opportunity to tune off of Leo Rush or not. But coming back, he was on color because he's the cruiserweight champion, for Angel Garza versus Jack Gallagher. Were you back in the room by the time this happened?
Yes, I was back in the room for this.
What did you think about this?
I like Jack Gallagher, or I guess Gallagher, we're supposed to pronounce it as, when he was in the Cruiserweight tournament a few years ago. I really liked him. The match was all right. I thought, I guess I'm naive. I thought Gallagher was going to win. I wasn't paying too much attention to the commentary during the match. And I was thinking, Gallagher and Leo, they're not radically far away in size. That makes some sense. I like Leo. I'm higher on Leo Rush. I could accept him in the ring if they're not going to use him as a manager for like a Cruiserweight division. I don't know if you can. But I'm okay with him there because I just think you see him and you want to hit him. Like I will tune in to watch him You know, like that's the way it's supposed to be. I will tune in to watch him in a match where he's going to get his ass kicked. So
he does get heat, and it's been proven in and out of the ring. But Jack Gallagher looks to me like Jackie Eagle's stunt. Marco Stunt's lookalike cousin from England.
Oh, come on. That's so unfair. That's not fair at all.
No, I mean, I understand David said he trained at the Snake Pit. He's an accomplished grappler. He's trained in shoot wrestling. His work is fine, but visually, what the fuck? It's just, oh man. Anyway, Angel Garza, I think they're related. Went over and had some face off with Leo Rush, and I just wished at that point in time somebody had fed on the other channel and fed Shivani the line, Garza and Rush, that'll put asses in seats.
Well, it took him long enough to live it down the first time. I don't think he's going to do that again.
It would have been funny if they just said, do it, Tony, or you're fired. Anyway. Okay, next match. Tegan. Is it Tegan or Tegan?
You know, I don't know. Tegan.
Well,
maybe?
You say tomato and I say fuck, it doesn't matter anyway. Tegan Knox and Dakota Kai against Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir.
Yeah, I like the match. I think that, and again, I don't know all the names. The Shayna Baszler's bodyguard friends, the MMA girls there.
Yes.
They're great.
Yes.
They look intimidating.
I'm sorry, I'm away from the microphone. I'm petting Harley. Just continue.
They look intimidating. They look like badasses. I was shocked when they lost. It was a bad hot tag, to say the least. She made her own comeback.
Yeah.
And then she went and got the hot tag. But other than that, solid match. I was surprised by the finish, and I'm very high on the NXT women's division.
Yeah, actually, and I'll be honest with you, I was going to fast forward through Tegan Knox and Dakota Kai because I'd seen enough female wrestling for the evening until I realized it was against the horsewomen. And so now I've got to watch it. That was the first true heel tag team I had seen in the two shows.
Yeah.
They are badasses. They don't have the fake boobs. They don't look perfect. They took over. They beat the fucking baby faces up. They had attitudes. They're pie facing them. They were rough. So now there was some delineation what was going on, and the two baby faces look so baby face, right? So, and they're legitimate, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I was surprised like you were, but I liked the way that they did. They did a nice little finish after, you know, one of these days, somebody's going to get the hot tag and to come back down all in the same fucking match. But they did a nice little finish, and the babyface girls, it was shocking. So I could go with that. But that was the best women's tag I've seen in so far.
And again, pro wrestling done right. I mean, Tegan Knox is the one who got the pin, right? She was the one that did the videos for the last several weeks about her knee injury coming back. That's pro wrestling done right, if you really think about it. She came back, and against the Anderson brothers of the women's tag team division.
There you go.
Got the
win. Do you think, which one is Jessamine? Marina Shafir has to be Ole, and Jessamine can be either Lars or Jean. I don't know. Anyway, and hold on here. And the main event, of course. I usually don't like triple threat matches. I mentioned that last week. They're awkward. But for the North American title, Keith Lee versus Donovan Dijakovic versus Rowdy Roderick Strong. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, first let me say to something we talked about last week with all the European names. And, you know, you said Donovan, was it Dijak?
Dijak.
And now he's
Dijakovic.
I figured, he must be from Europe. He's from Boston or whatever they said.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why'd you give him that name if he's from New England? But I love this match. I thought it was great. I thought Roddy was great. And shouldn't say he's so much smaller because it sounds like I'm putting him down, but he's smaller than the other guy. So it creates that dynamic. Those are both big guys. And I'm not even going to talk about the post-match. Just the match itself. Really, really loved the match. I was mad when it went to commercial.
Yeah.
I was really, and again, this goes to the point, AEW, well, I won't even compare it to AEW, just NXT. I was kind of burned out that match that you and I both skipped. They got me back. They got me back. By the end of it, I was in love with it. It was a great match.
I don't even count the first segment of this because they went to the break almost right away in the match. But parts 2 and 3, I love Roderick Strong. And once again, he's not huge, but he's in tremendous condition. He's strong as a bull. He really is. And he shows it in the way he works. His cardio is incredible. And now he had the indie experience 10 years ago, and he was having really good, high quality matches on the indies. But now he's been in that training program for so long, and he's just blossomed. And he was the guy, he was the glue that held this together. He was leading both guys from the middle. But Keith Lee's power stuff is great. Dijak is, I'll just say Dijak is not only so huge, but also he can move. They did all kinds of cool shit, but they still sold it all. That Tower of Doom spot to the break could have gone wrong, but Keith Lee was strong enough to get him back in there, even though he almost ended up head first out of the ring.
Are you talking about the suplex spot?
Yes, the Tower of Doom thing, the superplex powerbomb thing.
That thing was great, but to me, one of the things that made it, and this is something that AEW could have learned during a lot of the spots, like even if you don't like it, if they're going to do impressive spots, the NXT did the wide shot, and that made it. Because you got to see the legs wobble. You got to see the danger of it. If it had been a close-up shot or a shot from ringside, it would have killed it. You need to do more of those wide shots on the impressive things that have height or distance, because it really makes you appreciate it. And no one does it. Everything's a tight shot. I hate it.
No, that and boy, if you go back and look, Dijak didn't quite have Roddy straight up when Keith Lee took that first step, and Roddy his feet started going back down, which meant all that weight was on Keith Lee, and he bulled up under it and got them going over so Roddy could turn over and land, even though it propelled him out the other way. Anyway, that was fucking great. And the third segment, I just wrote, I love this in capital letters. Until right toward the end, when Dijak and Keith Lee went up to the ropes in the corner, and I hate those, let's assist each other, get up to the top for this superplex or whatever, when it's a buzz killer, because there's obviously guys helping each other stay up there. I know it's impressive when big guys do shit like that, but it's a buzz killer beforehand when it takes so long to set up and there's obvious cooperation. I wish they'd stay off of those things. But otherwise, and even Keith Lee doing a dive. Holy shit, just a fucking cannonball over the top. And Dijak got under him like a fireman's carry. So he really turned him and based him good. But Keith Lee landed on his feet. He's going to have to watch his fucking knees.
Hey, what did you think
right now?
What did you think of the part where Roddy got wiped out and Dijakovic and Keith Lee just like looked at each other?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get back in there. Just me and you, big boy.
And when they got back in, that's when the people were going fucking berserk. The anticipation of, okay, now that's the great face-off that kicks the energy in a match like that up another notch. And that was great. Of course, then if they could have done Jerry Lawler and Dutch Mantell 1-2-1-2s instead of fucking, it was kind of like a 1.5-3 exchange they did, but they're green. But finally, the finish was perfect, even though it was once again another thing off the top. They didn't need to go and do another one. But the power bomb off the top, and then Roddy flies right in with a kick and steals the fucking pin. That was a great fucking deal. And they did a three-way where each of the three of them had a reason to win, and nobody, was working together to undercut the other guy. They're hard to do, but they did it well. It was a great fucking match. That was the best match of, any program that night.
Yeah, and if the show had ended there, just with the match ending, it would have been fantastic, and they kicked it up a notch.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Bam. The heels jump on Keith Lee, and here comes Ciampa for the confrontation, but he's outnumbered. And here comes Johnny Gargano. Boy, he's still outnumbered. I think Gargano counts for like 2/3 of a person.
I got to stop you here. Just like you did with Omega, you've kind of ruined Gargano for me. Yeah, all I see is that face now. The one face, the Gargano face.
The Buster Keaton of wrestling. Just the fucking stone face, right? And then here comes Finn Balor. And now we got star power. And now here we go. And when Balor starts to that was the most athletic move, and it looked like it may have been a potato.
He hit it perfect.
He hit that when he starts to take his leather jacket off and just seamlessly goes into a Pele kick and knocks Johnny Gargano stiffer than fucking 4 o'clock. Boom. That was perfect. And then the Era swarms Ciampa and beats the fuck out of him while Balor puts Gargano through the guardrail. And that implant DDT, you can't see a lot of daylight there either. Holy shit. That was some good looking shit.
That beatdown on Ciampa was the best beatdown I've seen. Just all 4 guys just swarmed him, and they're all swinging, so you're seeing the arms flying. I mean, it looked great. It looked fucking spectacular. And tell me what you think.
And that's the old-fashioned way to do it, because now guys, when heels are getting heat on the babyface, they all want to pick them up and give them a big move. No, you put that guy down do that too, but you put the guy down in the middle of the ring, defenseless and helpless on his knees or on his back, and everybody surrounds him and kicks the shit out of him and waving arms and making noise, meaningless sound and motion, but it's frantic, it's danger. And that's the visual message that you convey.
Did you think when they were standing there before he took the jacket off, did you think a 4th guy was going to come out and you're going to have a 4-on-4 face-off?
Well, I wasn't sure. I figured maybe they had another mystery partner in mind or whatever, and they were going to, up the fucking deal. But nevertheless, they didn't need it. They swerved us.
Yeah, and they did it the right way.
Here's the thing. Who would have said going in that All Elite Wrestling, the wrestling promotion supposedly run by the wrestlers, would be a lot of gaga nonsense, except for the main event guys, and NXT, the promotion run, whether directly or indirectly, by Vince McMahon, would channel Mid-South Wrestling, with not only great matches and championship match on television, but a fucking hot angle with the heel standing tall afterwards, and a fucking redemption story of a guy coming back from surgery to fucking compete for the title again. NXT was Mid-South Wrestling, and All Elite was 2000 WCW with fucking less talent.
Yeah, I'm sick of hearing that AEW, it's like Mid-South Wrestling, sports-based. No, it's not.
What?
None of that shit.
That's what we were. We were sold a bill of goods, ladies and gentlemen. But I wasn't sold a bill of goods because I warned you. It's only a sports-based presentation if the wrestlers involved can present a sports-based presentation. And I knew as soon as I heard everybody involved but Cody Rhodes that was a hopeless fucking optimistic dream. And the prophecy is coming true.
We've talked so much about AEW, their executives, Tony Khan, and just the brain trust over there. Now that you've watched 4 weeks in a row of NXT TV for the first time ever, what do you think of what Paul Levesque and his team are doing?
Well, it's exactly what they are. They're not winning in the ratings yet. It's only been a few weeks. They will eventually, folks, because make no mistake about it. Vince McMahon's going to win this fucking war. I'm sorry. Now, if he had decided not to make it a war and instead just make a great wrestling promotion and not just get up and try to piss in Vince's post toasties, then there could be a future here. But instead, they've come out and said, oh, we're going to change the world. Well, guess what? Ain't a lot of people in the world ready for your changes, boys, because it don't make any fucking sense. You're up against a billionaire who has a limitless pool of talent. He can bring any guest star from Fox Television, from the SmackDown show that he wants to bring to NXT, but they're just going to do a good wrestling show exposing their fucking talent that have been highly trained and fucking drilled in this. And they do a great television program. And if they stay within a couple of 100,000 people of All Elite Wrestling with everybody on their roster doing the best they can, this is the C-Team show hanging in a competitive fight with the best they got. So I don't, that was what, when I first heard about this and that it was just a foregone conclusion, we're going to get on TNT and it's going to be great. And there's no contest to this because people are ready for a change. There was no thought, boy, this is going to be an uphill fight, or boy, we got our work cut out for us, or boy, things could go wrong. No, it was just overconfidence with if I'd had Cowboy Bill Watts and Eddie Graham and fucking Dusty Rhodes and goddamn Jack Briscoe and a few others running my company, I would have been overconfident to the moon. With the people that I heard being spoken about, I had no reason to see anybody to be overconfident, and my prophecy is coming true. They got to stop giving their friends jobs. They got to realize that this indie outlaw bullshit, video game mud show bullshit is going to wear off quick with a fad audience, because you're not appealing to wrestling fans that will watch this shit through thick and thin. With a lot of this stuff, you're appealing to these goofs on the internet that are going to find the next hula hoop or shiny object to distract their attention when the fad is over with. And all the silliness does, and all the fucking constant bumps and moves without any context or semblance of contest, all that stuff does is numb the audience to when the guys, main event guys with talent do it. And it just diminishes everything. They don't know how to get people over yet, because they're trying to get people that visually are never going to get over to begin with over by doing a bunch of shit, rather than getting their core of quality talent over by having them drub the shit out of all these guys that look like shit. So I don't know.
More Jericho, more Cody, and more of their, associate. And, I mean, by the way, we brought up promos
or
earlier.
Just let one of them book the whole goddamn thing.
We brought up promos earlier, Jim. How many promos has MJF done on TV so far?
What the fuck? When he was walking to the ring once.
Once?
He could talk for 10 fucking minutes. Give him a segment. Give him an interview. Give him a Piper's Pit. Give him something that at least we could look forward to every week on this program. That when all else fails, at least it was worth it.
Yeah, I'm not going to YouTube to see your character development. Put it on fucking TV.
You can't fucking tell me that they couldn't figure out. You can't advertise an angle, right? So they couldn't advertise, hey, guess what? We're going to have a fight in the concourse. But you could advertise MJF will be face-to-face with so-and-so. And give me a reason to watch that. I don't know. Anyway, very good idea.
This thing, no promos. Just every match has to go at least one commercial break, and no one talks. And the Cody Jericho segment was so dynamic. It was so great. The fans ate it up. It was done perfectly. Jericho was hysterical during a commercial break where he's on the little screen and he's just hamming it up with the ticket in front of the camera. But then
the only time I ever watch the picture-in-picture is when Jericho's on it, not when a match is going on. But anyway, all right. We got one more week, and then we're going to evaluate whether we're going to keep doing this every week or not. I can already tell you I'm going to keep watching NXT, but they're making it difficult for me over on the other side of the fence.
I do like the recording schedule, putting the show out on Friday. Selfishly.
Just for your own selfish reasons.
Yeah. No, I mean, NXT, that's what I keep asking myself. After the requirement's gone, if you decide at the end of October, you know what? We're not going to do this, or we're not going to do it for a few weeks, or whatever. However you decide you want to handle this. Am I going to still feel the draw to watch it? That's going to be the big test. NXT's got me interested, but I wouldn't have tuned into NXT last night, like with excitement. But because I watch it, I get into it. AEW had that, it was drawing me in just based on what could happen, and then when I watched it, I was disappointed. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because, here's the thing with AEW, you know that nothing is going to truly shit the bed or just be insanely bad on NXT or amateurish or fucked up or whatever. But there's always that danger with this cast of crew of characters over on the other side. There's always something could be really world. I mean, yeah, yes, and I know they just did a stinky Hell in a Cell, but that's not NXT. Triple H ain't letting him fuck up his fucking deal. So do you watch live 2 hours of just a lot of gaga just to see the potential great segment with Jericho and Cody, or the fucking embarrassing train wreck that you just have to see to knock, instead of the really mostly good top to bottom show? I don't know.
Yeah, if you would put that Jericho and Cody segment into that one segment on NXT that you and I both skipped, it would have been a perfect show.
Yeah, fucking have been the best show since fucking December of 1985 on Mid-South Wrestling. Anyway, let's wind this fucking thing up. You know how we can play ourselves out. What? That doesn't mean anything. Fuck it, we'll do it live. No, we're going to play us out tonight. Play me out, Johnny. I actually said that on a TNA interview one time. When I ran in the ring as the director of authority or whatever they fucking called me and made like 3 or 4 matches with stipulations real quick while the guys were standing there looking at it. And I made this quick announcement. And then I looked up at the hard camera. I said, play me out, Johnny. And Keith Mitchell in the truck hits the fucking TNA music and I shuffle on out. Anyway.
Now they're saying, play me out, Joey.
Yeah, good Lord. Anyway, our drive-through theme has become such a hit, such a catchy little jingle that we're going to give the folks on the experience another shot of it because it's sweeping the nation. And the folks on YouTube won't hear it because we don't have a deal with the association yet. But in the meantime, I think it's a perfect way until next week when we join you again for the last week of this fine experiment, the Wednesday Night War, plus who knows what's going to happen between now and then. And get your Cornette's collectibles quick.
What about the pay-per-view on November 9th or whatever?
Oh, fucking hell. Well, we'll talk about it. And we'll tell you next week, ladies and gentlemen. In the meantime and in between time, thank you, fuck you, and bye.